Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So before we get started, I feel like we should really acknowledge the elephant in the room here, which is I did a thing with my hair. It's definitely not lilac anymore. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll have seen that I posted a poll yesterday asking you guys what colour I should dye my hair next. But if you don't, then surprise! I think we can all agree that my lilac hair was just not lilac. Like, I honestly don't even know what colour it was becoming. It was like a pastel pink, grey, yellowy, kind of brunette with the roots coming in mess, and every time I tried to dye it, it just didn't look like I'd done anything. I feel like on camera it looks really black, but I promise you it's not black. It's like a really dark, warmish brunette. Honestly, the last time I had my hair like this dark was when I dyed my hair black in sixth form, which, let's just say, it didn't go as well as this has now. Honestly, I'm really digging this hair, like especially the kind of red dip dye underneath. I feel like it's very autumnal. So if you do like the change of my hair, please let me know down in the comments. I'd love to know what you think. If you don't, then I don't want to know. Anyway, moving on to something far more disastrous than any of my past hair choices, which is third year. What a mess. I feel like I should have said this earlier, but if you're new here, hi, my name is Gaia and I'm a fourth year psychology and criminology student at Nottingham Trent University. Last year I filmed reviews for my first and second year, and since I'm now in fourth year, I feel like it's fitting to film a third year review because this year has definitely had its juicy moments. So if you do like the sound of today's video, go click that like button. I'll wait. You done? Great. And if you're new here and you want to stick around for more university content, lifestyle and student vlogs, go click that subscribe button right now. We are literally so close to 1,000 subscribers, and once we hit that, I'm going to be doing quite a big giveaway, so you don't want to miss out, trust me. So just before we start, I just want to give a little disclaimer that some of the things in this video are going to be the first time that I talk about them, because some things are private and some of the things that have happened this year I'm still coming to terms with. While I do try to be transparent with my life as much as possible with you guys and show all of my experiences, it is important to keep a balance because I, like everyone, has a right to privacy, and regardless of what I do with my YouTube channel, some things and people will always remain off screen. So just bear that in mind, that there will be some things going on behind the scenes in my life that I can't always talk about. And if this is the first time you're hearing about something, chances are there will be a reason behind why I'm only talking about it now. So what I'm going to be doing with this third year review is that I'm going to be breaking it up into categories, and the first category I'm going to talk about today is academia. I was in year 2 during that first lockdown, and because of the pandemic, everything obviously went online, universities closed, and we all got sent home. I'm sure all of you remember what a time that was, you know, back in the day with all those Zoom quizzes. So for the rest of that year, we were all scrambling to learn how to use Microsoft Teams, and all exams got changed into either coursework or
I got a text! I got a text! I've got a text!
At the end of year 2, the Vice-Chancellor of NTU told us that the university was really going to push for us to all be on campus for my third year. Several weeks later, they then told us they're still going to push for in-person teaching, however, the first term might have to be online. The irony in those statements, because the entire of my third year was completely online. In the autumn term, they did run like in-person lectures, but it was at that time in September where everyone after Freshers Week was isolating from COVID, so literally no one turned up to any of the lectures. Even though I was worried myself about going onto campus and mixing with people at that point, I did try to go to one of the in-person lectures once or twice. It wasn't like I was expecting like a completely full lecture theatre, but I definitely expected there to be more than 3 students in the room, apart from the lecturer. So yeah, as you can see, COVID really affected my learning. The reason why I never returned to in-person teaching in third year was because after the third UK lockdown in January 2021, the government only let priority courses go back. So I think it was courses like midwifery, animal studies, art and design, like courses that were a lot more practical and like that you physically couldn't do from just watching like a PowerPoint at home. So as you can see, as a student whose course is mostly essays and theory, it didn't look very good for me. What actually made it more ironic was that by the time I was finally allowed to go back onto campus, like legally, all of my classes had finished, so there was literally no point. Like, there was literally no sense in telling us that we could all return on the 17th of May when pretty much every course, like regardless of what year you're in, whether it's year 1, 2 or 3, like everyone has finished their course content by that point, and past like April to summer it's all just revision and exams. So like I don't think anyone actually returned to classes. Like the whole thing was just honestly a shambles. If you do want to see me rant a bit more about my educational experience in third year with the government and the lockdown and stuff, I did do a few videos earlier this year where I spoke about their decisions and how I just didn't see the sense in it. I know they didn't anticipate COVID to go on as long as this, but there was just no point telling us to go back. Like, there were no classes to go back to. Like what happened in year 2, my exams and assessments also got altered in year 3. For example, I had several essay-based exams that got changed to just essays. However, my academic work wasn't just affected solely by the pandemic itself. For example, early this year I actually had COVID alongside a few other personal things happening, which meant I was forced to take out extensions for all of my final year modules. If you've been following my vlogs for like the last 6 to 8 months, you'll have seen there's been grief and breakdowns when I realised I wasn't going to finish on time in my cohort, to relief and joy when I finally submitted my dissertation project this August. However, if you're new here or haven't seen the vlogs, long story short, after having COVID for 2 weeks, I ended up having long COVID, which meant I had non-stop fatigue for about 7 months, and the knock-on effect of that fatigue was just it was a mess. So if you have seen those vlogs, you'll remember that there were literally so many times where I would just turn on the camera and say that I couldn't do a particular day because I literally woke up feeling so fatigued and low, and that was because of the long COVID. Let's just say long COVID isn't easy, especially in third year when you need to be powering everything you've got into your final year. The reason why I just kind of labelled it as fatigue at the time instead of going around being like, oh my god, I had COVID, was because it was a private matter to me. And at the time, all I wanted to do was just recover from it. Fatigue wasn't the only symptom of long COVID that I faced. There were others, but for time's sake and privacy, I'm just not going to go into it. As I mentioned a second ago, that wasn't the only reason why I had extensions. Loads of other personal things were happening behind the scenes that I did talk about in April when I first told you guys on the channel that I was going to have to take a quick break from YouTube just to focus on trying to rush the end of my degree. These personal events have been things that have been completely out of my control and sadly had a massive negative impact on my degree as a whole. So yeah, as you can see, overall I guess my academic journey this past year has definitely been a rough one. However, if you aren't caught up to speed, despite all of those extensions going on until the summer, I still didn't have a chance to finish all of my assessments, so that is the reason why I'm in 4th year. I'm not redoing any work, all I'm doing is literally just submitting the remaining assessments that I wasn't able to do because of all of those personal reasons. I've just realised while editing this third year review that I've completely forgotten to talk about my community award that I won in May 2021 for my contribution to the community. How the hell did I forget that? Like, what is wrong with me? But yeah, for all those who don't know about that, basically I won an award this year because of all my work that I do on YouTube and in the community as an NTU student. As I will mention at one point in this video, I did a lot for the mental health champions as well. Earlier in April this year, I got an email saying I'd been nominated. I was like, who the hell has nominated me for a community award? Oh my god, like, imagine if I win this. This is insane. Like, it's honestly mental enough that I've been nominated, let alone, like, if I actually win.
The winner for this award is Gaia Corley.
Oh my god! I found out that I was up against, like, 3 other organisations, and I was the only individual, and I was thinking, I'm not gonna get this. Like, I'm not gonna win this. Like, their work in the community is amazing. Like, they've been there feeding homeless people. And then there's me that's just sat behind a camera, like, yeah, I guess I'm giving like advice and I'm helping students, but I still didn't think what I'd done would like beat what they've done. So when I did find out that I won, like, I was just like speechless. Like, I couldn't even believe that I'd been nominated, let alone the fact that I'd won this award. Just knowing that I've had an impact on students and stuff, like, it kind of makes my own mental health and my life easier for a second, because like it's just an amazing feeling. But yeah, that's another thing that I thought I might as well mention in this third year review, because here I am telling you about all these bad things that happened to me, and I've completely forgotten to tell you like one of the best things by far that happened to me this year. Like, it probably is the best thing that happened to me. Anyway, back to the video. So the next thing I'm going to move on to is housing. So like second year, I also had a student house in third year. If you want to see where I lived in third year, I'll link a few videos down in the comment section. They're videos of moving into my student house, my room tour, moving out, you get the gist. However, despite having a student house, due to the lockdowns, I only actually lived in that student house for, I think, 2 months. Like, I can't even say 3 months. I'm pretty sure it was like 8 to 10 weeks that I lived there. The reason for this is because I went home in December 2020 expecting to only be there for my 4-week Christmas holiday, and then something called the third UK lockdown happened, which meant I couldn't go back. As I mentioned previously, I wasn't a priority course, so I had to stay at home and access my education that way. Due to the fact that I thought I was only going to be staying for 4 weeks, I only took a small suitcase home with me. So I literally had to live out of that suitcase for about 5 months. Pretty much all of my stuff was back in Nottingham. Looking back, it is a real shame that I didn't get to stay there longer, especially considering the amount of money I paid for a 1-year tenancy, only to live in the house for 2 months. I can't remember off the top of my head how much in total I paid. I'll pop it on the screen once I figured it out while I'm editing. The house itself was amazing. It was in a lovely gated community in like a court with some other student houses, and the landlords themselves were just lovely. If you are a Nottingham student and you're looking for potential landlords, I really recommend University Quarter. It was also a massive shame because if you've been following me for a while, you'll know I haven't had the best of luck when it comes to student accommodation and flatmates. This year, out of all of them, was supposed to be the best one. This was the year that I actually got to choose who I lived with when it comes to flatmates, instead of being pushed together with strangers. And they were all psychology students as well, which was supposed to be even better. I feel like COVID just really scuppered everything up. Sadly, I'm not really close to any of the flatmates that I lived with. I feel like that's the case though, not just for my flatmates, but also for a lot of friends that I had at university. I feel like COVID just really pulled everyone apart, and unfortunately it just didn't work out the way I wanted it to. Several of my closest friends actually recently have been people that I've met through my YouTube channel, people who were subscribers or people who have fellow channels. I just feel like these friendships are a lot healthier than some of the people that I tried to be friends with at university. I feel like COVID definitely brought out the worst in everyone, especially in the autumn of 2020 when the entire country were just forced into 6-people bubbles, and it was just a really bad time for mental health. I personally saw things in people that I didn't initially see when I first started university. For example, while I was at home during third year, I'd get texts from flatmates asking to bin frozen food. Yeah, I honestly don't see the sense in it. At the time, it really angered me because not only is it a waste of food, like perfectly good food, considering frozen can literally last forever, it was a waste of money, and I don't have a lot of money, and it was also just a massive disrespect to my space. I know I wasn't allowed legally to return to that house until much later, but I was still paying for that house, and I'm still allowed to have my space without people just going through my stuff and moving it around. Like, when I actually moved back to move all my things out of that house in August, the amount of things of mine that I just found moved or shoved into another cupboard, and it was just a real shame because, like I said, this was the first year I kind of picked my flatmates and I thought we'd all really get on. Like, I'm honestly gutted it couldn't be that way. I just feel as though they forgot that it wasn't just their house, it was also my house, and I was also paying for that space. But either way, I'm out of that house now and life goes on, you know. So the next thing I'm going to talk about in this third year review is mental health, because not only am I a massive advocate for mental health in general, but I'm sure everyone, or at least most of us, can agree that in 2020 healthy mental health just didn't exist, especially not for me in that case. To put it plainly, my mental health was pretty much appalling for the majority of third year for many different reasons, whether that was because of the pandemic, general degree stress, part-time job stress, you know, there was a lot. However, there was a particularly bad moment during September to December 2020 while I was living in my student house. However, you wouldn't have even guessed for a second that I was like this just from looking at my social media. This is why it's so important to not only always remain kind but also open-minded, because you really do not know what people are facing behind the scenes, what secret battles people have, even when their life looks amazing on the outside. Not to get all deep or whatever, but I just really want to hone this in because I actually had someone tell me last year that I had it better than everyone else during the pandemic, and I personally found that so shocking because I'm pretty sure, unless my memory is broken, that we were all struggling in the pandemic. It wasn't like I was, you know, flying off to Barbados every weekend. To be fair, I have spoken a lot more about my low moments on YouTube, but overall, I guess my social media, like anyone else's, is a highlight reel. Social media is our best bit. So the literal worst thing you can say to someone is that they have it better than others, because no one escapes hard times. 2020 in particular was such a hard time for everyone. We not only all need to be supportive, but we also need to be supported. But I unfortunately didn't get that from people that I would have originally called family and friends at the time. I feel like so far this video has been like really sad and really like stress filled, but that has literally just been my year. So we're going to move on to the next topic, which is part-time jobs. I don't actually know how much I've spoken about my part-time student job on this channel. I used to work in the kitchen of Wetherspoons, just doing weekend shifts around my studies, and then I'd probably do like an odd evening if I needed to cover someone. And it was just a really good way to have that little extra income in the month when your student loan is slowly drying up. However, because of the fact that I worked in a pub, when the lockdowns happened, that meant I just couldn't work at all. But when it came to third year, I was actually quite grateful for this, because I generally don't think I'd have been able to balance a part-time job, third year of my degree, and a YouTube channel. Also, despite working there for 3 years, because of the fact that I had so many episodes of really heavy fatigue throughout these last few months, I unfortunately had to leave my student job. But if you ever want me to talk about my experience of what it's like to have a student job at university, or what my top tips are on finding a student job while you're doing your degree, then please let me know down in the comments. I'd be more than happy to do a future video. So next we're going to move on to social life. Now, I think we can all agree, because of COVID, I don't think any of us really had like normal functioning social lives. I personally didn't really have much of a social life in third year, not just because of COVID, but also because of my final year assessments. I've had lots of people ask in the past like how third year differs to first and second. Is it harder, and like is the workload more? And I honestly don't know how to describe it apart from the fact that it's just intense. I definitely found it a struggle to balance my extracurricular activities, such as having a YouTube channel and a social life alongside my studies. However, despite the lack of social scene in 2020, I did have a chance to go to NTU's like COVID version of Freshers Week, which was actually quite fun despite being restricted. If you would like to see a vlog of that Freshers Week, then I'll link it above. And now moving on to the last area or topic of this video, which is my spare time activities and general hobbies. Again, due to COVID, I didn't have a chance to join any new societies, let alone meet up with any of them. However, I did join the Student Mental Health Champions, which I think I have mentioned on my channel before. Basically, a Student Mental Health Champion is a it's basically where you volunteer. Basically, being a student mental health champion means that you can signpost other students to support networks within NTU and other external agencies such as NHS services. As a mental health champion, you'll take part in free training throughout the year for things like suicide, self-harm, like looking after your mates, like learning about like drug abuse and like consent and all of those really important topics that do pop up while you're at university. And all of this training looks amazing on your CV, and after being a mental health champion you can also get a reference for future employers. The main thing that mental health champions do though, alongside signposting, is running activities throughout the year just to kind of bring the community together. So in the past we've done things like coffee mornings, rock painting sessions. They also do an NTU podcast that I was a part of. They also do a lot of like social media things. So as a mental health champion you could volunteer to do a TikTok about well-being. I only joined obviously in 3rd year, but I did so much for them because I'm actually so passionate for mental health. So if you are an NTU student and you've actually got to this point in the video and this sounds really interesting to you, then I really recommend signing up. Like I said, it's completely free. The hours are completely flexible. You do as much or as little as you want, so you can fit it around like other commitments and like jobs and things. I have joined a few more societies this year because I am going to try and balance my YouTube and like the last remaining assignments that I need to do with societies, because of the fact that I do have a little bit more extra spare time this year because I don't need to go to classes. But I guess I'll tell you more about that next year when I do my 4th year review. So yeah, I think that's where I'm going to leave this review. Apologies, I feel like this whole video has been like kind of down and depressing, but like that was the reality of this past year. I would honestly be lying to you if I said that this last year's been easy, that it's just been a walk in the park, because it hasn't. I'm actually currently in the midst of sorting all of my master's applications out, which is very stressful, and I'll fill you guys in very shortly. But if you did enjoy, I can't really say enjoy because this video has been probably really hard to listen to because of all the struggles I've had this year, but if you did like me rambling about how hard this year has been and you were interested in what I got up to this year and how everything turned out, I hope this video gave you that, and if it did, please give this video a massive like. Honestly, it helps my channel so much. And if you're new here and you want to stick around, then go click that subscribe button. I would love to have you. But other than that, I've been Gaia. This has been my 3rd year review. What an actual roller coaster. And I'll see you next time for more content. Bye!